Swinging a drive. Right field and deep. Back goes Aquino. It's got a chance. Gone. Get out the tape measure. Long gone.
Fly the W!
Cubs fans, it's time to fly the W with Dustin Rhodes and Paul Crawly Jean.
This is the Fly the W670 podcast, season number 4, episode 27. Cubs win a series, but lose a Shota. Don't forget to listen, download, subscribe, and most importantly, review the podcast. Follow on all the social medias. I'm at Mullyhaw on X.
And you can follow me at Crawly's Cubs on X, Blue Sky, and TikTok, and Crawly's Clubhouse on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. And you can email us at crawlysclubhouse@gmail.com.
All right, Crawly, before we get into the good news, unfortunately, we have to get into the bad news. We thought it might be possible, but now it is official. Shota Imanaga heading to the 15-day IL with a strained left hamstring in a corresponding move. They call up somebody I was surprised that they put back down, to be honest, but he must have 100 options. But Gavin Hollowell is coming up, so they're going to go deeper with the bullpen, and that is what they're doing, at least at the minute, for Shota Imanaga going on the IL with that left hamstring strain.
Yeah, I was there yesterday, and when you saw right away that play and the trainer, you just knew it was trouble, and hopefully they can deal with this, and he can be back on the mend. You want to be really careful, but you know, this is tough because we talked about the Cubs' tough early schedule, and not saying it's easy to play the Pirates and Brewers, easier to play the Pirates and the Brewers. But, you know, now we're going right back into a really another tough week with San Francisco here at Wrigley, and then going to go play the Mets in New York, which is probably one of the best team in baseball.
Well, right. Well, he's obviously going to miss the start against the Mets. So let's be full service here, right? Mm-hmm. Then he would have probably missed a start against the White Sox.
Right.
So, okay. So if he only, best case scenario, if he only misses 2 starts, they should be able to survive and win at least one of the 2 games that he was supposed to start, if that's how far it goes. Now, if it goes any farther than that, then, you know, it would be great to have him back for the Red Series. So they got White Sox, they're at the Marlins, and then when we get to like the 23rd, 24th, 25th of this month, they are at the Reds before a trip to Colorado. So again, if you could just survive and advance a little bit, this is a little bit of another soft part of the schedule.
It's another
after
test
this week, and you're only going to get you were only going to get him one time this week, right? You're only going to get him one time this week,
right? It's a test for a team that's been tested a lot early on, and again, we talked about this when Steele went down. Is no one's going to feel sorry for you. Next man up. You got to keep moving.
Got to keep moving along. All right, so that's the latest on that. Let's get into the good news. The Cubs win a series against the Brewers. They are in first place as we are recording this doing this live ahead of the Giants game. It's a 6:40 first pitch. Game number 1, we wanted to see Ben Brown step up after not the best outing, and he and the offense did just that.
Yeah, right. It's easier to pitch when your offense scores 9 times in the first 2 innings, right?
Way easier.
The Brewers thought that they would get cute, right? They switched their scheduled starter. Quinn Priester was scheduled to start, and instead of going with him, they decided to use an opener, Tyler Alexander. And I don't know if getting cute there, if Pat Murphy doing that screwed things up. He gave up back-to-back singles to Ian Happ and Kyle Tucker to start the game. Cleanup hitter Carson Kelly hits a bloop single to make it a 1-0 game. After Michael Busch hits into a force out to put runners at the corners, manager Pat Murphy pulls Alexander for the scheduled starter, Quinn Priester. So, and you know, I don't know if that screwed Priester up. You know, we've talked about how some of these guys are just creatures of habit, and he's supposed to start the game. Now they got an opener. Now he's got men on base coming in the middle of an inning. I don't, kind of goofy, I thought.
Yeah, a little strange. Not sure exactly what the manager of the year, right? Current manager of the year was thinking in that scenario.
No. And so the first batter Priester faces is Nico Horner, who hits a single to right. Cubs are up 2-0. Priester comes out in the second inning, and that's when the Cubs put the whooping on. Dansby singled, followed by 2 walks to load the bases. Kyle Tucker and Seiya Suzuki keep the line moving. It's 3-0. Now they're up 4-0, but with 1 out, Michael Busch, his first career grand slam, his 6th home run of the year to make it 8-0. Dustin, that had to have felt good for Michael Busch there.
Absolutely, something I'm sure he's wanted to do for quite some time, and get it off your back. And it wasn't a cheapie in a game that really, really matters, right? So absolutely, it's great.
Right. And when I look at this, I always say to myself, you know, it's he just hit it, Oppo Taco, everything. And here's what Busch had to say about that grand slam.
Yeah, he threw a similar pitch, 0-1. Thought it was a little off, and then he threw one a little closer. So I think it was kind of nice to have seen it, the pitch before that. But yeah, just try to get something in the air and get a sac fly at least.
First career grand slam. What will you do with the ball?
I'll probably give it to my dad. He likes he takes a little better care of it than I do.
So he's going to give it to Dad, but
I'm impressed he got the ball back, right?
hey, yeah, I think that and here's the thing when it comes to it is that these guys, Michael Busch and PCA and the younger guys, and even Ben Brown, you're talking about trying to get consistency with these guys, right?
Right.
Being a baseball player is hard. And you're going to have the high highs and the low lows. And so Busch was asked about that.
And that's saying a lot. Yeah, I feel like I've done a decent job. Just trying to minimize the lows and stay as consistent as I can throughout the season. Month 1's done, but kind of moving on to the next one and just kind of keep going. I think that experience is good. Talking to guys is good, but just kind of continuing to keep going and month by month and day by day, honestly.
That's the key here is you cannot let these slumps go for too long. And if you're talking about a good major league player, everyone's going to slump. It's just the good ones get out of it much quicker.
Right. I mean, keeping blinders on, ups and downs, as you always like to say, it's a marathon, not a sprint. I kind of grind on these games a little bit more and remember what you have done for me lately. Just wait until we get to game number 3 and talk about that. That's a tease, Crawly. That's a tease. But no, Michael Busch has a good head on his shoulder. Fine young man.
Now PCA would hit a solo home run 418 feet to center to make it a 9-0 game. So they are going to score 9 times. And Dustin, my favorite part of all this, first off, how dumb do I'm telling everybody how awesome the Apple broadcast is. And I forget what inning it went completely black, like the 3rd or 4th inning. I want to say it was like the third inning, something. The screen just goes black, and I'm going, "Oh my God, how do you?"
Yeah, I thought it was me, right? You think it's you in the beginning. You think it's you, right? I was like, "Come on."
Right, and so I'm sitting there looking at this, and I'm saying to myself, "My God, it's just ridiculous." But smooth sailing for Brownie. You got a 9-run lead, and so now Brown pitched 6 innings. He gave up 4 hits, a single in the first, 2 singles in the third, and a single in the fourth. That's it. The Brewers did not have a single extra base hit, and Brown struck out 4 batters and walked none. We talked about the importance of Brown going deep into the game and not walking batters, and Dustin, he did both. Last year, Brown had a no-hitter after 7 innings in Wrigleyville North. This time, he shuts them out in 6. I think Brewer fans would be happy if Brown didn't pitch that next series in Milwaukee when the Cubs return in the end of July. But how much do you think that the stern talking to and maybe that message from Craig Counsell kind of stuck with Ben Brown?
Well, it looks like it worked wonders, right? And again, Tommy Hotovy said not only did Counsell say it to him, that Brown admitted that he was right, that Brown looked in the mirror and knows that he can be better and needs to be better at this point in his career. And given the first opportunity following that kind of stern message, kind of be uncharacteristically called out in public by the skipper. That's not something we usually see from Craig Counsell. It worked. Everybody reacts differently from having different buttons pushed.
Well, here's what Brown had to say about his outing.
We've been putting in a lot of work. Obviously, I know it's at stake here. I have a really good opportunity in this team, and I don't want that to go away. I want to contribute. I want to be a guy for this team. I want to save the bullpen. I want to do things that I have to do. I want to win ball games, and I got to pitch better, right? So that's been the focus this whole week, is getting back on track. And today was probably the closest I felt to where I was at last year, just from a command standpoint, an attack standpoint, where my curveball was at, especially early on. It was really aggressive early on. There's some really good changeups today too. So all really encouraging stuff for sure. This is the first time I've kind of struggled in the big leagues. And last year was a different animal. I was in survival mode for half the time, and I did well, right? But this year it's like I feel fine. I feel like a professional baseball player. You're gonna wake up, work on things. You can't overdo it, all the time. But I feel like week in, week out, I'm in a good spot to compete, and I wasn't doing that. Even games where I was, like, I'm still struggling through some things, and I'm using my brain a lot more than I've ever had to use my brain. I'm trying to stay, level-headed as much as I can, and I'm leaning into guys that have been doing it for a while, and they've really been helping me out. So yeah, I definitely feel like I've grown a lot. This is the most I've grown in my life, and it's been a long 1 month, but it's a good month. I mean, we're 10 games over 500 or whatever we are. Like, we're a really good baseball team, and it's really cool to be a part of it.
I thought it was interesting how he mentioned he wanted to be a part of this. He knows that if he screws up enough, he may be sent back down on the bus. And would you want to be in Iowa right now, considering how the Cubs are playing?
No, absolutely not. You want to be part of this. Who wouldn't? You'd be crazy not to want to be part of this, right?
With the fun, right? Like, we've been with Dustin, we've podcasted for 3-4 years, and we've been seasons that haven't been fun, or teams that haven't been fun. This is fun, and these guys don't want to miss it. And my friend Will Stradamus here says the road starts haven't been the issue. It's home starts that have been the problem, and we're going to talk about it when we preview this series with the Giant. But he did what he was supposed to do. And then Chris Flexen came in and gave him 3 innings. So that set up Counsell perfectly, because he didn't have to use any other bullpen arms in that game. Now, I had a good laugh because the Cubs had another home run from the bottom of the lineup from PCA. And this, I don't know if you saw this when you were watching. Did you see this kid from the Apple broadcast off the ball? PCA's second ball, home run ball?
Yes.
Look at this guy right here.
Love it.
I think he was trying to say fudge, right? That was what he was trying to say.
Yeah.
I love the passion, though, and I saw someone call him little John Cena, and it made me crack.
Yeah,
up
sun's out, guns out for this guy, right?
Right, but look at this here, right? So with that home run by PCA from the 7th spot, right? He hit a 7th and 8th home run in that game. The Cubs lead the majors with 19 home runs from players hitting in the 7, 8, and 9 spots in the lineup this season.
Yeah, no doubt. The bottom third of that order has just over-delivered.
Now, they lead the big leagues in hits, slugging, and RBIs this season. And PCA has 7 homers, which is the most from anybody in either the 7, 8, or 9 spots in baseball. So it's this length of this lineup that is phenomenal. When we looked at this game for MVPs and GOATs, obviously Ben Brown, 6 shutout innings, Michael Busch, first career grand slam, PCA, 2 home runs. I couldn't really find a GOAT other than Nicky Lopez. He was the only one who didn't have a hit, but he at least got a walk, so he got on base.
And no errors, right?
No errors. Everything looks smooth.
No errors.
Yes,
That's all
sir.
I want from the third baseman right now. No errors.
Now we get to game 2, and that's Jameson Taillon versus Jose Quintana. And we talked in our last episode how Jose had a 4-0 record with a 1.14 ERA, while the Cubs led MLB in nearly every offensive category against lefties, right? So something had to give. So one of these things was going to not play out. And the Cubs luckily got to Jose early. First inning, Ian Happ with the leadoff single. Quintana gets the next 2 outs. Happ makes it to second on a wild pitch. Carson Kelly walks, and then Justin Turner, you're saying, what's he doing in the lineup after Busch hits a grand slam? Well, he makes Craig Counsell look smart. RBI single. Cubs are up 1-0. Now, the Brewers were tied up in the 3rd on a Jackson Churio double and a Bryce Trank single. But in the top of the 4th, Carson Kelly and Nico Horner single, and PCA with 2 homers the night before sends another one deep, a 3-run blast to put the Cubs up 4-1.
God, I love that home run, Crawly. I love that home run.
Phenomenal. And then Dansby goes back-to-back jacks, and the Cubs are up 5-1. Get this stat right here, Dustin. The Cubs have hit back-to-back home runs 5 times this season. Last season, the Cubs hit back-to-back homers 6 times the entire season. We're only in the middle of May, Dustin.
That's crazy. That's a crazy stat.
Yep. Reese Hoskins will get one of those back on a solo home run in the bottom of the 4th, but in the top of the 5th, Kyle Tucker hits one off Quintana to make it 5-1. Some lefty on lefty violence. Dustin, coming into this game, Quintana had given up 1 home run in 4 games, 23 2/3 innings pitch. The Cubs tagged him for 3 long balls in 5 innings. So something had to give, and it was Quintana that was forced to give.
Yeah, it was forced to give, and I'll say I'm fine with that, by the way. I'm just fine with that.
I'm sure you're not heartbroken. And what about Jameson Taillon, the king of the Dustin Rhodes quality start, did it again.
Quality start, yeah.
6 innings pitched, 2 runs, 3 hits, 1 walk, and 5 Ks. This guy is as steady as they go, and it's nice to have someone with a little consistency. It was his 6th straight start where he gave up 3 or less runs. Okay, and so it's just when you're looking at what J-Mo's doing, it just kind of gets overlooked sometimes just because he's not like the flashiest guy.
Right. He's not a swing and miss guy, even though he just did get career strikeout number 1,000. Swing and miss is not necessarily his thing.
No, but when you're looking at his starts and what he's been doing lately, and against some of the teams that he's been doing it, he gave in April, he gave up 2 runs to the Athletics. He gave up 3 runs to Texas. He gave up 2 runs to San Diego, 1 run to Arizona, 1 run to Philly, and 2 runs to Milwaukee. So with this offense, Dustin, you give up, I forget what the stat is out there, but if you're not giving up a lot of, if you're scoring 3 or more runs like the Cubs offense are every game, you get a chance to win with this offense easily.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm excited, as far as how Jameson Taillon did. And so he's allowed, he's allowed 3 or fewer runs in his last 6 outings against Milwaukee, and he's had 2 shutout performances. His 3.13 ERA and 2.50 opponent average against the Brewers are both the lowest against any NL Central opponent. So that's good to see because you're going to need him, right, to get past Milwaukee.
Yes, sir.
Merriweather pitched a clean inning in the 7th with 1 K, and Brad Keller finished the game 2 innings, gave up 1 hit with 1 strikeout. J-Mo and Carson Kelly was 1 for 2 when we talk about MVPs. J-Mo, obviously, with the quality start. And PCA was 1 for 4 with a big 3-run home run. And Dustin, I don't know if you saw this. Did you see Pete doing the old money symbol when he was rounding the bases?
I did. I read a story about why he did that as well.
Yes, sirree. And so here's Pete telling the story, and it just made me crack up when it just kind of shows the fun that these guys are having.
Just drop their hats for home run calls. And Danny was smart, and he came over and asked me what inning I was going to hit a homer in, or what at bat I was going to hit a homer. And I said the second at bat, just, whatever it was. And, Danny was freaking out for a good reason over there. So, the bullpen has some fun, and they definitely call some good ones.
It's just fun. And so they're betting on home runs in the bullpen. And so Daniel Palencia goes up to PCA, when are you going to hit a home run? And PCA tells him second at bat. Guess what happens? Second at bat, pops one out there. And so Palencia wants some money, and that's why PCA was doing this thing. Now, did you catch the very end of the game, Dustin? What happened to PCA?
The Gatorade bath?
Yes. Daniel Palencia is so happy he's going to give him a Gatorade bath. PCA so fast, he gets out of the way, and Taylor McGregor of Marquee takes the full brunt of the Gatorade bath. She's a pro's pro, though. She got through the interview spitting out Gatorade, but I thought that was hilarious.
Awesome, yeah.
Unfortunately, not awesome for me was Game 3, Shota Imanaga versus Freddie Peralta. Dustin, I went up. This was the game we were both worried about, right? I mean, we both knew it was going to be a pitcher's duel. We both knew, okay, if you want to win this one, right? If you want to win this series, the Cubs hitting Paul Skeens getting 3 home runs in 1 inning. That's not normal, Dustin. That's not a normal thing to do. And so just seeing him do that, I was nervous going there. I can tell you that Brewers fans are still a little bitter about what Cub fans do when they come up there. We made our predictions, and, it was a pitching duel. That's just what it is, right? Peralta pitched like an ace, and on Sunday, that's what he is. The frustrating thing, though, is after the first inning, the Cubs had the leadoff runner on from the second through the fifth inning. Second inning, Michael Busch, leadoff walk. Third inning, Dansby had a leadoff single. Fourth inning, Kyle Tucker, leadoff single. Fifth inning, PCA, leadoff single. Only one of those runners would even make it to second, and that was Michael Busch, and that was because of a fielder's interference here. So PCA got thrown out trying to steal second. We don't see that often. A perfect pitch by Peralta and the perfect throw by William Contreras. Pete didn't even argue. They didn't even challenge it. He just walked off. But Peralta would pitch 6 scoreless innings, give up 4 hits, 1 walk, and 7 Ks.
Yeah, he's kind of owned the Cubs. We talked about that when we previewed this one.
Yep. Shota was matching Peralta inning for inning. He gave up 2 singles in the first, but after that, he sat down 14 of the next 15 Brewers he faced. The 6th inning is when disaster struck. Jackson Chourio led off with a single. Shota got Isaac Hahn to pop out, but then he walked William Contreras, 2 on, 1 out for Christian Yelich. He grounds one to the first base side, so Busch is moving towards second, so he starts the double play, throws it to Dansby, and Shota's supposed to cover first for the 3-6-1 double play. As Shota's running to the bag, he feels something in his leg. He has to slow up, which allows Yelich to reach safely. So instead of the inning being over, you got guys at first and third, 2 outs, and Counsell and the trainer come out to pull Shota from the game. And so Counsell decides to go with Merriweather to get that final out. And unfortunately, it didn't happen, Dustin.
No, not only didn't happen, and this is what I was teasing the other day, is the fact that how do you bounce? How do you throw a wild pitch?
You get all the time you want to warm up on an injury.
I know. You have all the time you want to warm up. How do you throw a wild pitch?
On the very first pitch.
It just doesn't make any sense to me.
It reminded me of late great Bob Uecker, right? Just a bit outside.
Just a bit outside.
And so that was a wild pitch. A run scores. Yelich to second. Merriweather walks Rhys Hoskins. Smart move. Pitch around him to face journeyman Cameron. He was Mike Cameron's son, and he only came into the game because Sal Frelick had to leave with an injury, and so Cameron hits a single to score Yelich, move Hoskins to third, and Caleb Durbin would double in 2 more runs, and the Cubs were down 4-0. That's how this one would end. No sweep for the Cubs. Shota proved he could. For my MVPs, I picked Shota. I thought he proved he could pitch against the Brewers. We didn't know he had a very bad outing against them in Milwaukee last season. I thought he pitched really well against them. Kyle Tucker, 2 for 3 with the walk. Daniel Palencia and Drew Pomerantz looked good in their inning of work. Unfortunately, Seiya, Busch, and Nico were 0 for 11 with 1 walk and 8 strikeouts. And Julian Merriweather only needed to get 1 out, but instead gave up 4 runs. Dustin, I got this video I got to play you here. It's I don't know if you heard Pat Murphy. He's the manager of the Brewers. He used to be Counsell's number 2. But Murphy is describing this win, and I thought this was the funniest description I've ever heard when he's going through how good the Cubs are. Let me play this video here.
We had a lot of great performances today, but we shut out one of the best offensive teams in baseball, if not the best. They're solid through and through, and they're a great club. They're just old enough and just experienced enough, and their young guys are at the peak of their game. It's the blue-haired kid is kind of a freak right now, the way he's playing. The new kid with the huge feet, that kid is what a hitter. You know what I mean? What a hitter. I just notice him when he's digging in the box, and I'm like, oh, this is bad. But he's what a hitter. What a hitter. And then, Hap's always played great against us. Suzuki's a great player. Busch is the most underrated. Horner's underrated. Swanson is as good a defensive shortstop as there is in the league. The 2 catchers, the one kid, they've been great. Their pitching staff. It's a great ball club through and through, but really proud of our club to respond the way it did. Really, really proud of it. I don't know that we found that misplaced edge, but Freddie Peralta set the tone and wouldn't be denied.
So let me ask you a question here. He mentioned Hap, he mentioned Swanson, he mentioned Nico, he mentioned the kid with the blue hair. So I feel we can say that's PCA, correct?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
I mean, he doesn't remember one guy's name on the team. It's almost like slightly insulting. While
So
it's funny, it's slightly insulting.
the kid with the blue hair, but I want to know who's the guy with the big feet. The
Kyle
new
Tucker.
guy with the big, is that Kyle Tucker?
That's Kyle Tucker.
I've never, but if there's a name you could remember, right?
He's got like a size 13. He wears like a size 13.
But let me ask you this, Dustin. It's not like it's some rando guy. It's one of the best hitters
Right.
in
That's
the
my
league.
point. He's just showing like his age, right? I mean, he's just showing his age and old school, get off my lawn kind of thing with comments like that.
I mean, that's almost like not being able to be like, if you didn't know Barry Bonds' name in the late 90s or Sammy, it's like, are you serious? You wouldn't be able, you couldn't figure out Kyle. I mean, at least, okay, PCA, he's only really played like a season and 3/4, right? I can give him that. It's not, but Kyle Tucker, come on. Either way, the Cubs finished the road trip winning 4 of 6 from their division rivals, the Pirates and the Brewers. They're alone in first place in baseball and look like one of the best teams, but that Shota Imanaga, we talked about, he's one of the last guys you could afford to lose, and now they're going to have to carry on without him. So Dustin, let's hope that the Cubs can keep doing what they've been doing, which is answering the bell.
Well, fingers crossed. It's just missing starts against the Mets and then the White Sox, and then hopefully he'll be back by the time they're taking on the Rays. If you're just tuning in, welcome to episode 27 of season number 4 of the Fly the W podcast. Cubs win the series, but lose a Shota. Don't forget to listen, down the review, and subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Leave us a 5-star review. You can also email us, crawleysclubhouse@gmail.com. crawleysclubhouse@gmail.com. And don't forget, you can watch us, as you might be right now, on Crawley's Clubhouse on his YouTube page. All right, Crawley, after the series win against the Brewers, how do things stand in the Central?
So when we take a look at it, I'm happy to say the Cubs continue to be in first place. And you also knocked the Brewers back a little bit for me, which is always kind of one of those enjoyable things. So when we look at the NL Central, Cubs are 19-13, Cincinnati 17-15, Milwaukee 16-16, St. Louis is at 14-18, and Pittsburgh in the basement at 12-20. So, hey, just keep in first place. You didn't allow Milwaukee lost ground to you. And that's the important thing that you're looking at right there, right?
Yep. Keep winning series, keep serving meatloaf. Things will work out.
Right. And so now when we take a look at we do have the power rankings for this week.
Oh, new power rankings. All right.
Yes, sir. Let's take a look and see what we got here. At number 10, the Guardians, they were 10 the week before. Phillies go from 13 to 9. We got to see how hot they were. But this got me interesting right here. Bob Nightingale's talking that the Phillies are keeping an eye on Cardinals' Ryan Helsley to help out their pen. Ryan Helsley's a great name. I wouldn't think that the Cardinals would want to help out the Cubs much, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. Nope.
The Giants, who were coming into town, were at 6. They fell down to 8. The Mariners were at 8. They're up to 7. Yankees were 7. Now they're up to 6. Tigers were at 5. It says here, talking about Javi Baez, did you see him rob? He's playing center field now. He robbed Jorge Soler of a home run. 2016 World Series champion, violence on violence. Baez robbing Jorge Soler of a home run.
That was very cool. It was very cool.
Padres stay at 4, and the Cubs stay at 3. Mets are at 2. They were 1, but now the Dodgers are back at number 1. So that's the power rankings going into this week before the game.
All right,
Dustin,
that's
okay.
I think that's right where they should be, right? I think that's right where they should be.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I don't know if you saw this here, but The Athletic had a really interesting piece on the strike zone, and I wonder if this has something to do with the Cubs doing better offensively. The article in the Athletic, the way that it talks about is that pitchers, when they were graded out by MLB, used to be given a 2-inch buffer. So you have your strike zone, and then there was an extra 2 inches that if a ball kind of hit that 2 inches within that buffer, they didn't kind of mark it against you, right? It wasn't counted negatively against your score. This year, they moved the buffer zone to 0.75 inches, so 1.25 inches left. So the umps are calling a strike zone that is more accurate. Okay. It's more of an accurate strike zone. And so I have a feeling that because we've talked about the Cubs have a lot of guys on this team that have really good eyes and are really good at taking pitches. Ian Happ is one of them. Nico Horner is one of them. Kyle Tucker, Seiya Suzuki. You're looking at guys that are very good, have a very good eye at the strike zone. And how many times, Dustin, how many times have we saw it last year where they took a close pitch and they got rung up?
Right.
And I'm wondering if the fact that they're getting more walks and they're getting more favorable counts, if that has something to do with a more accurate strike zone being called.
Very well could be. I agree with you. Very well could be.
It's a really interesting article for anyone that's sitting here watching. I would recommend, if you don't have The Athletic, get it. Dustin, I want to go over some injuries before we go over a special anniversary. Obviously, the big one that we're talking about is Shota Imanaga. And, right away, there was a lot of questions after the game. That's all anyone cared about. And so here's Craig Counsell and Shota talking about the injury.
Yeah, he did it kind of on the running over to first base. We'll probably do some imaging to see what's going on. He's never had any lower body muscle strains. So he's a little unsure of what the feeling means, but he felt something for sure. So we'll just get it checked out tomorrow and go from there.
I'm at the point where, I don't know what exactly is going on. Don't know what the damage is. But we have to see, going into tomorrow. How have your legs felt this week since the cramping, and do you think they're at all related? Yeah, this week my body physically felt really good. Even before the game, felt amazing. And hydration, everything included, felt great. And so, there's no sign of the back of my leg before the game or anything like that. So I'm in shock. Yeah, I think when I was running to first, trying to get the double play. I think that's when it happened. So it's front of the thigh, so it's different from Pittsburgh. And and there's walking naturally, so it's the first time it's ever happened. So I can't really tell how bad it is.
Yeah, so we know
it happened on the double play. Come on, that's when it happened.
And so you're talking now. That was the question for me when I'm at the game. Right? Is what is happening there? Like I'm watching the game and I'm like, is it the cramps again? And, seeing him come out, I was just like, this can't be good. And so he's never had this type of injury before. So we'll see how he bounces back. Because of the off days in their schedule, Dustin, it allows him to kind of keep going with the rotation and just skipping a guy, skipping his start. So that's kind of the benefit. That's why they went with the Gavin Hollowell.
Right. So an extra closer. They also have Chris Flexen, who could be, used as at least a starting option, right? Colin Ray has pitched better than anybody could have imagined. So these things make sense.
Now we're waiting on Ryan Brasher. He's another right-handed reliever. Everyone keeps forgetting we got him and he hasn't played yet. But the one guy that I keep looking over is Tyson Miller. And we talked about how important he is. And when Tyson Miller comes up, and how the Cubs are going to do once he is back. I think that's going to be a big deal depending on what Tyson Miller we see. I think that it wouldn't surprise me if in the next maybe week we might see him out here. He pitched on the 19th, the 23rd. You see he pitched the 26th, the 29th, and the 2nd. He's thrown multiple innings on the 29th. And so he's, out of all these outings, he hasn't given up a lot of hits so far. In Iowa. Obviously it's in Iowa, but in the month of April, he started April 15th. He threw 6.1 innings, gave up 3 hits, no runs, 3 walks with 7 strikeouts. And he threw on May 2nd. He went an inning, gave up a hit, no strikeouts, no walks. So I think he's a big part of this bullpen, and hopefully if he can come over and be healthy, I think it's a big deal. But Dustin, on May 6th, tomorrow, we're recording this on May 5th, is going to be this blows my mind how old we're getting. The 27th anniversary of Kerry Wood's 20 strikeout game. Can you believe that?
No, I remember exactly where I was. It was a rainy, windy, crappy May day, kind of like the last couple of days we've had around here, kind of the off and on weird weather. And yeah, I remember it vividly.
I was in college at the time, and I was at class, and I said to myself, okay, it was like lunchtime. And so I had a class that went from 12 to 1, and then like another one that started up from like 3 to 4, and that was the end of my day. Came home, had lunch. I was going to watch the game. And then I figured, okay, I could probably watch like a good amount of the game before the next class. And I'm like, all of a sudden he's got a no-hitter going. And I'm like, I'll wait till they get a hit, and then I'll start heading over to class. And they did get a hit, that Kevin Ory play. But I was watching the strikeouts. I'm like, I can't leave. I can't go to class. I got to watch what happens. Now, true to God's story, our friend Scott Nelson was at the ballpark that day. And,
wow. Pretty special.
How awesome is that?
That's pretty special.
But you remember the guy going out there had 32 jerseys and the 6 and the K signs?
Yes.
The guy who brought the 32 jerseys and the K signs, he brought 16 of them that day, was a family friend. His name was Tom Bunjowski. He was a huge Cub fan. And he literally, think about, this is a young kid.
So he brings
these
Ks with. Yeah. Wow.
He brings the Ks with. He doesn't have enough. He didn't have 20. He had to like put it on people's chest and look for any scraps of paper he could to make the final 4. Either way, he passed away too young, way too young. And I know his son Jake very well, and Jake and his family gave me one of the Ks from that day.
Wow. Pretty cool.
It means it's one of my most prized possessions. And I've been working on this Kerry Wood piece. You guys, you see my man cave right here. And I collect all sorts of memorabilia. And my framer, Jason Ketchik from Catch 22, he worked on this project for me. And it took a little while, but you're going to see why in a second. I'm going to show you live for the first time ever, for everybody watching the podcast, this piece of memorabilia right here. It is, Dustin, 7 feet wide by 4 feet high.
7 wide by 4 feet high. And this is framed. This is framed in glass.
Framed in glass right here. That is a Cubs production poster from the documentary they did of Kerry Wood with 20 Ks. You can see Kerry signed that right here. This right here up top is the first pitch signed by Kerry Wood and the last pitch signed by Kerry Wood. This right here, you could see has the, this is an actual ticket stub from the game.
Wow.
Is a scorecard from that day signed by Kerry Wood in the front. And this is a scored. I had my friend scored. I didn't want to leave it blank. I just thought it would look cooler scored. That's my friend Sarah Sanchez signed by Kerry Wood. This is the pitching rubber, not from that day, but it has all the, I had Kerry put all the, how it looked that day on May 6th. The amount of hits, the amount of runs, all of that. So that's
cool.
This right here is the signed scorecard from Pat Hughes and Kerry Wood, not the authentic one, the one Pat sells at his shop. So that's the scorecard that Pat did. And that was one of the Ks signed by Kerry Wood from that day.
Wow.
So 7 feet by 4 feet. It is an absolute tank.
Now you got to send, you got to send a picture of that to Kerry.
We did. We sent a picture to Kerry already.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Just so he could see that, but it turned out fantastic. I'm really
proud
of that.
That's an impressive. That's impressive. Nice job of framing. Nice job of putting that together. Very nice. I forget about everything else. I can't even imagine what it cost to frame that.
Yeah, that one was a nice one, but boy, oh boy, like I said, Catch 22. He does a lot of creative things, and I think for a lot of us Cub fans of a certain age, that was a special day. And I got to go to
it was. Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah.
I went to the 25th reunion. They had it at Gallagher Way up in the building. They have a nice restaurant bar area up in there. And Kerry Wood and Pat Hughes had their memories from that day, and it was phenomenal.
Oh, cool. Very nice. Well, good for you, Crawly. That's a nice piece. You should start like charging admission to take a walk through the Crawly's clubhouse, pun intended.
I think we're gonna just let people come over and walk around. We won't charge admission. Now I just need to find John Lackey, and we'll be done soon.
You're listening to the Fly the W podcast. Don't forget to listen, download, review, and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star review. You can also email us at Crawly's Clubhouse, gmail.com. And don't forget, you can watch us on the Crawly's Clubhouse YouTube page. All right, Crawly, the Giants are in town. The one team that the Cubs have not played from the National League West, the best division in all of baseball. And the Giants come in one game better record-wise than the Cubs.
Yeah, last season the Giants finished with a record of 80-82, 18 games back of the Dodgers. They missed the playoffs for the 6th time out of their last 7 years, which just seems bizarre to me, right? Remember all those even year magic? But they had a losing record for a second consecutive year, but an injury in the first weeks of the season to big free agent signing Jung Ho Lee really hurt them. He's a Korean superstar. He was their big free agent signing last year, and he separated his shoulder like really early and never came back. But even though the Giants didn't do good, they took the season series from the Cubs 4-3. And by the end of the season, the Giants fired their president of baseball ops, Farhan Zardi, and replaced him with former catcher Buster Posey. So I thought that was interesting last year. They had a couple, the big free agent signing this year, though, was Willy Adames. We know him from his time in Milwaukee, great player. Yeah. Justin Verlander is a starting pitcher, trying to get 300. I don't think it's going to be happening. And then Joey Lucchesi's like a swing man. They did lose Blake Snell, starting pitcher Michael Conforto, the left fielder, and relief pitcher Taylor Rogers. But they're off to a good start, right? 22-13, but that only gets you 3rd place in the NL West. They're 6-4 in their last 10 games and on a 3-game winning streak. It's got to be fun to play Colorado, right? In their last 3 series, they took 2 of 3 from the Rangers. They got swept in a 2-game series against the Padres. And in a 4-game series of the Rockies, they took 3 of 4. They lost the opener, but then took the next 3. The Giants are 12-5 at home and 10-8 on the road. That's what you want to be if you're a playoff team, right? Good home record, slightly above 500 on the road.
Correct.
But they have an impressive 13-8 record against teams over 500. Obviously, having Jung Ho Lee back has been a huge boost, but they're without the services of second baseman Tyler Fitzgerald, who has a fractured rib.
Tail of the tape, Crawly. Tail of the tape time. The bell. There it is. The bell knocked Crawly out. No pun intended.
When we look here, you have the batting average. The Cubs are far ahead of the Giants. Cubs batting average. How about this, Dustin? They're first in MLB with a 262 batting average. I don't even know. Like I said, I can't remember the last time the Cubs had the best batting average in baseball. The Giants are 24th at 231. When we talk about slug, the Cubs are still 3rd, 455. The Giants are 16th at 387. Runners in scoring position, and this is where the Giants are similar to the Brewers right here, Dustin. They're in their bottom 3rd of batting average. But the Cubs are 2nd with runners in scoring position, 289. The Dodgers are 3rd with 278.
I can't believe the Cubs are 2nd. I mean, gosh, I know we beat this one like a drum, but boy, we've been banging on this stat for years.
Right. But with the Giants, they don't get a lot of hits, but when they get runners in scoring position, they cash them in. That's why the Giants are as good as they are. As far as starting pitching, the Cubs get the advantage there. 3.44 ERA. That's 5th in baseball. The Giants are 4.10, 18th. Here's the big difference right here, Dustin.
Mm-hmm.
The Giants have a bullpen that is 2nd in baseball in whip, 1.03 whip, while the Cubs are 24th with a 141 whip. And that's why I keep saying, God, we just need Tyson Miller back. We need a couple guys to get healthy and rolling. You can't have Merriweather doing what he did the other day. You just can't. If you want to be going deep into October, the bullpen cannot be walking guys, throwing wild pitch, that kind of stuff. When it comes to fielding, the Cubs are better defensively. They have 15 defensive runs saved, 2nd in all of baseball, while the Giants have 5 defensive runs saved, which is 14th in baseball. So the Cubs have the advantage of everything, but it's close in runners in scoring position, and they have a much bigger advantage when it comes to the bullpen. So don't fall behind them.
Now, ready to get into the probables, Crawly?
Yes, sir.
Big one tonight. Matt Boyd has been solid overall. Hasn't always gotten the run support that some of the others have had. Maybe this is a good one to get going when setting the tone tonight over at the Federal Landmark.
Yes, sir. Landon Raup, 640. Matt Boyd's 2-2 with the 2.70 ERA and 6 games started with 30 strikeouts in 33 innings pitch. Boyd spent the month of April facing only the Dodgers and Padres until his last start versus the Pirates. On 4/16, Boyd gave up 2 runs and 5 1/3 innings. On 4/23 against the Dodgers, he gave up 3 runs in 6 innings. And his last start against the Pirates in Pittsburgh, he gave up 2 runs in 5 innings and got the no decision. Boyd is 2-0 at Wrigley with a 2.25 ERA versus 0-2 with the 2.95 ERA on the road. Hard to believe, Dustin. Matt Boyd has been pitching in the majors since 2015, but he's never faced the Giants in his career. Only 3 Giants have had hits against Boyd. Wilmer Flores is 2 for 3. Matt Chapman 0 for 6, and Willie Adames is 1 for 9 against him. Landon Raup is a 26-year-old righty in his second season in the majors. He's 2-2 with a 5.10 ERA and 6 start this season. He had a very rough month of April. In his last 2 starts, he hasn't gone very deep and has given up a lot of contact. On April 24th against the Brewers, he gave up 5 runs, 3 earned on 6 hits and 3 walks with 2 Ks in only 3 2/3 innings. And his last start against the Padres, he gave up 4 runs on 7 hits, 3 walks, and 4 Ks in 4 1/3 inning. So, I mean, the Cubs have shown what they've done against both those teams, the Padres and the Brewers. So hopefully they can do the same thing that they did to Raup, right?
Fingers crossed, Crawly. Fingers crossed.
Elevate the pitch count early and force the Giants to go into their pen. Raup has never faced the Cubs, and no one on the team has any at-bats against him. He throws a curveball, sinker, and changeup, and he gives up a lot of hard contact. So I think this could be good for the Cubs.
Sounds like a good one. Game number 2.
Colin Ray versus Justin Verlander.
Justin
PM.
Verlander.
I will be at this game.
Uh-oh.
Colin Ray is 2-0 with a 1.46 ERA in 7 games. 4 of those starts with 21 strikeouts and 24 2/3 innings. So far in those 4 starts, the most runs he's given up is 2. In his last start against the